This episode of Lawyers Tell All is brought to you by the Intake Academy. Are you ready to convert more callers to qualified cases, rapidly qualify good cases, and transform unqualified prospects to advocates for your firm, whether you're able to handle their case or not? Visit www.intakeacademy.com and discover how to cement relationships with more of your ideal clients. Get them to commit to you and send you more referrals than you ever thought possible. Welcome to the Lawyers Tell All podcast, where Chris Mullins, the preeminent sales and communications consultant in the legal industry, shows you how it looks through lawyers' eyes. Here, innovators in the trenches provide powerful insights that help you connect with new clients, handle the sometimes harsh realities of the legal profession, and embrace the mindsets needed to succeed. Be sure to visit our website at www.lawyerstellall.com. And while you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now, lean in, tune in, and let's take a deep dive.
Hello, everyone. It's Chris Mullins with Lawyers Tell All, and I'm going to be interviewing Brett Trembly, and I'm going to let Brett introduce himself. Go ahead, Brett.
All right, Chris, thanks for having me. I'm ready to tell all today. So
Good.
Go ahead and give me those hard-hitting questions. My name is Brett Trembly. I'm a lawyer by trade here in Miami, Florida. And I have my own law firm. We do litigation, business law, franchise law. We really help business owners with whatever they need. And just about 5 years ago now, I started a staffing company for lawyers, virtual staffing company called Get Staffed Up. And that's been going very well. So that's who I am, or that's what I do in a nutshell. Not really who I am, but nice to be here.
Right. I love it that you're here. So talk to me about your book. I keep thinking of that song, The Danger Zone. It's humming in my head there. So go ahead and talk about
Yes, that was my first book, right? Called The Danger Zones. Highway to the Danger Zones, as I get that stuck in my head pretty often. But my new book that just came out a few weeks ago is called 24 Months to Freedom. And I have a copy here.
Okay.
So this is it's a book. It has a lot of anecdotes. I've honestly been given some feedback that it's a very good read, but it goes through the 7 main positions that I argue through my experience and experience staffing thousands of people and hundreds of law firms, of the 7 main positions, including something you'll like, of course, intake. Like I know we feel the same about intake. Law firms just traditionally do a horrible job, and they need to work with somebody like you to coach their intake people. We supply the intake people, and that's one of the chapters that I go into here. But 7 main positions that if you methodically, systematically staff up over 24 months, you will get yourself not to where you're retired by any means, but to a position where at your law firm, you're no longer owned by your law firm, and you're not beholden to your law firm. Your law firm has systems and people in place. It's running so that you've got some freedom to decide what you really want to do next with your law firm in your life.
And so is it like a specific mapped out plan? Like if I just look at the plan and just follow it, I can do it.
Yes, that's the goal of this book. If you don't follow the plan and you still get the positions, or you do them in a different order, maybe you don't hire all 7, then it's still going to be very beneficial for people. But it's covering, not attorneys, not paralegals, but these 7 positions that we staff at Get Staffed Up.
Okay, so talk about the 7.
Yeah, sure. So I'll just go in order. The first most important thing any professional, especially lawyers, need to do is get their time back. And the quickest and easiest way to do that is hire an executive assistant, somebody to manage your time, your calendar, your emails, and that will be the biggest impact. You will double your output almost immediately. So you probably know this, Chris, but the stats are pretty consistent year over year, done by different media, but lawyers, we bill 1.5 or so hours per day, but we only collect about 1 hour per day. And so and that's why it's like working harder just doesn't work as a business owner. You can't just work harder. And the cover of the book has a little hamster who escaped, the hamster wheel here.
Okay, got
And
it.
that's kind of, the imagery that we're going with is you can't just keep spinning that wheel harder. You have to start thinking about your time in a different way. You will, and I'm not one of these like 10x, 2x, 5x gurus, but statistically proven you can bill twice as much and collect twice as much with one good executive assistant. So that'll be your biggest impact, and that'll happen immediately. I've never met anyone who hired a really good executive assistant and was like, oh yeah, this is not for me. I've never heard that. The next one is receptionist, and starting to get into some of the things you do. So this was my experience. So many lawyers, we network, maybe we put up a website, send some emails, only to have our phones answered in the wrong way. We hire receptionist companies. We're creating an awful impression. If any one of us were shopping for a doctor, we would never, hire or let the doctor that picked up his own phone do surgery on us, for example. Just a terrible impression. So I go into that in depth. And I don't want to gloss over how important that is. The third one is marketing, a marketing assistant. That way you can, generate some more business. Because with the first two hires, 99 attorneys out of 100, they have enough work. There's just work sitting there that they're not getting to, and they keep saying, I'll get to it on the weekends, the nights, and most attorneys, we're not good at analyzing how much work we actually have. So even if you have less than 10 clients, you still have plenty of work to do there in those files. So the fourth one is the intake specialist. And, you can correct me if you disagree with me, but, I argue a system where the receptionist answers the phone. That person's just going to be perceived as a receptionist. They need to pass the call off to somebody with more knowledge, more expertise, who's going to answer all the questions about the firm, who's going to screen the potential new client, who's going to make sure to not set wrong consultations with the wrong people. But for the people on the line that are a good fit for the firm, their job is to book the consultation. And the attorney should not be a part of, we should design the process, but we should not be a part of that at all. And that's where the magic happens in differentiating our firms from all the tens of thousands of small firms out there that do it the wrong way.
Well, let me ask a question. When you say
Go ahead.
the consultation, tell me, that's the call to action for your firm?
Yeah. So if someone's on the phone and they call us, then the receptionist answers, oh, I'm looking for, a contract, for example, contract review. So it's passed or I've been sued, right? So then the phone is patched over to the intake specialist, whose job it is to get that person to pay for a consultation at a future date and time. Rarely it's the same day, and I'd argue that even probably makes you look a little too available. But with the attorney or the salesperson, non-attorney salesperson, different sort of discussion. But the idea is that the intake specialist is lining them up, knocking them down, and filling the calendar for at-bats for the firm to make sales.
And it's a paid consult.
Yeah. So I argue in the book. So if you're contingency fee, you can't do paid consults because they're never going to pay you, right? But I firmly believe this, and I argue in the book that you should never, almost never do unpaid consultations. And I tell my story of early on in my practice, I had 3 consultations. So I spent an hour preparing for each one. I went overtime, like an hour and a half with each person, really thorough. So I spent the whole day and not one of them hired me. And I was just so sick to my stomach because they were tire kickers. They had no intention of hiring me. Why would I give so much time and effort to somebody who is not even trying to compensate me for my services? So
that's a lesson right there. And I think sometimes we do it because we feel desperate. We don't have the confidence that we're gonna get that person or the right people, so we're afraid to ask for the money. But
yeah,
I just want to say to everybody is, like, with the consultations, and you kind of mentioned that you might not want to do it the same day because you seem too available. I just want to tell everyone that when you're on the phone with somebody, that's the moment. So the idea really is, if you can schedule the same day, do it. And the reason is because they're ready now. They're emotional now. The moment you hang up and you let them go, you know, maybe it's a week later or 2 days, you're running the risk of completely losing them, no shows, going to another law firm. So I'll just kind of throw that in there. You gotta close them. Whatever your close is, do it while you have them on the phone.
Okay, well, I agree with you if your close is setting them up for consultation later. If it's to have the consultation right then and there, if it's personal injury or criminal defense, I completely agree with you. You don't, like, if somebody's arrested, right, you know, I'm available in 2 weeks. Like, no, that person's emotional now. If someone's been in a car accident for a loved one, that person's emotional. You've called the right place. Here's our protocol. Don't hang up. And you just basically, before that person knows it, they're having a consultation about hiring your firm. I'm totally with you on those two things. For estate planning, for business, a trick could be the intake person saying, hold on, yeah, I may have a special thing I can do for you. And saying, look, there were some cancellations today. This never happens, but I can squeeze you in later today. You know, if you're available, you know, let me take your payment, and in 30 minutes, we'll get it back on Zoom, and the attorney will meet with you. If you're, you know, you're desperate, right? Otherwise, the argument is you should be doing, you know, sending things in the mail, having glide paths, phone calls, and you know, you don't want to wait too long because you lose people for sure. And if you're not available when they're available, then they're, you know, the PNC is going to call a new firm. But if it's somebody who's like my law firm, we work with business owners, right? They're busy anyway. They've got a few time slots. We try to meet those time slots, but it's very rarely the same day. And my experience is, if you jump on a phone with someone that day because it feels good, because strike while the iron's hot, you're going to lose that person more often than not, because they're going to start thinking about it later, and they're going to create an impression that it was too easy to get you on the phone and you must not be busy. It's important for us lawyers to guard our time to create that impression that we're in high demand.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. So now go on to the next person.
Yeah. So then the next one is a legal assistant, and we're a virtual staffing company. This is the one that I argue, if you absolutely want someone in person, make it this person. But if you don't, you can have a legal secretary do everything they need to do, other than, you know, take a piece of paper from your hand and I don't know, do something with it. But there's so many ways that you can get around that. So legal secretary, and then and that could be 5 or 6, but a billing specialist is the next one. And I would, you know, it's hard to argue, like put them in order of importance, but a billing specialist can completely change your firm financially within a month. I talked to someone the other day that hired a billing specialist through us, and that billing specialist collected $100,000 of AR over the first 45 days that they were there.
Wow.
But more than just collect the AR, because man, us lawyers, when you get us in a room, on average, it's well over $100,000 that we have uncollected, unbilled. We don't send bills on time. We feel bad because we send them late, so we discount our services. We feel bad sometimes we send them on time and we still discount our services. That's why I was talking about the stat earlier, when it was, you know, you're doing 1.5, 1.6, 1.7 hours per day, but you're only collecting an hour on average per day, because you don't have a system in place for someone else other than you to properly log your time, put it in your billing system, and then get those bills out, and then follow up and collect with people. You know, I saw a post on, and I talk about this all the time, and you think your message kind of gets out there, and then I'll see somebody post in a Facebook group, you know, oh, it's amazing, I got someone to collect. And I'm like, yes, of course you did. It's that easy.
Also because like they're focusing on it, they become an expert at it and they're focused on it. So yeah, it works.
Yeah.
What, let me ask you a question though, but what about confidentiality? So, you know, with virtual, you know, and get staffed up, like how do you handle that?
Like credit card information, for
Well,
example.
there's that, and just, like, even if there was like listening to call recordings and
Yeah,
kinds of information that's being provided over the phone.
yeah.
Yeah,
So most of the time, your collections departments, for example, because once you have a billing specialist, then suddenly you see how easy it is, and now you want to get, a few more people. They're calling and reminding, but they're sending you links. And so if you're using LawPay, for example, people are still paying directly, and that's never been an issue. Like, we don't keep credit card data on file. We don't store it anywhere. In terms of confidential information, you have the same duty to protect confidential information with your domestic employees as you do your nearshore, offshore, international employees, which is, you have them sign not confidentiality agreements, you talk to them about protecting data, and then you secure the data as much as you can, meaning you have remote desktops that you can shut off. If any one of your employees has a laptop, that's potentially personal information that can get out there. If you're an estate planning firm, especially, you're gonna have a lot of confidential information. Other firms not going to have social security numbers. There's really not a lot of reason these days to keep social security numbers, addresses and stuff. Yeah. So, we treat our virtual team just like we do our in-house team, which is, you've got to, you're subject to confidentiality. And so far in 5 years, we've never had an instance of theft. And the reason that it's possible is because you, the firm owner, set up your own protocols and safeguards, just like you do with your internal team. Because what we're providing for you is not outsourcing. Outsourcing is when you hire a company and you send them work and then you get the work back, right?
Yeah.
Then you have more issues that way. Ours is, we're finding you someone and they're working for you and only you full-time, 40 hours a week.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. And by the way, the last position, because I'm probably sidetracking myself here, is a client happiness concierge or client happiness coordinator, somebody who's gonna, get reviews for you, follow up with clients, send anniversary cards on an anniversary, or, thank you cards, check in, just really make your firm look so much different and unlike most law firms that you've ever worked with, and that's going to help with referrals and continue to grow the business.
Yeah, I call them love tap calls. So,
I like that.
yeah, call your clients and call your past clients and check in with them and have them do the Google reviews and respond to them. There's all kinds of things that you can do, right? And generate some more business and referrals, everything. Yeah. All right. So that's it then, right?
Yeah, those are the 7 positions. And I make the argument about financially why it makes sense to do it in the time frame that I lay out in the book, and what you can expect to see in financially and how you grow. And again, of course, a lot of people write things and they think they have all the answers and everybody should read what they say. And but again, I've been getting a lot of good feedback on the book, and I know it's already helped quite a few people. So would be very happy if people grabbed a copy.
Yeah, that would be awesome. What about the different types of law firms and sizes? So everything that you're talking about, is it for a certain type of firm or a certain size, or even somebody that just opened the doors?
I would never open the doors again without an executive assistant. And because you can find one like what we do, because part of the challenge with growing is you have to grow your team in order to get more done. You need more output, right? More bandwidth. Is when it's domestic, then your overhead can increase right along with your revenue, and that can be frustrating because you're making the same money even though you have 3 or 4 employees and you're just working to pay them, and that's not fun at all. So when you think about the offshore, the economic arbitrage there is, from day one you should be protecting your time and doing lawyer work. That's gonna sort of, your trajectory is just going to be much higher, much faster, because you're going to have more time to do the legal work that you need to get done that solo attorneys don't. But we work with solo attorneys, we work with small and mid-sized firms. Our programs, our enterprise programs for much larger firms, totally different. they have receptionists, they have a lot of these things in place. We're just basically cherry picking to see where they can add a lot of bandwidth, and a lot of that comes with assistance for their attorneys, even shared, and some other things. I don't really know.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, like, why? It seems like a lot of attorneys, or at least a handful, are getting into this business, like the hiring business.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It feels like to me, not that long ago, it wasn't something that I would even think of seeing an attorney doing as another business. But now it seems like there's a handful that are like yourself and a few others. What is it? Like, what's going on that makes that such an attractive entrepreneurial decision?
Well, I think that I don't think it's a straightforward answer. So
I can tell by the way you're trying to answer me, Brett.
yeah, I guess I got to be careful, because some people do it the right way and they're totally legitimate.
Yeah.
Other times lawyers, and I was almost this way, and I'll tell you a story because I'm not being judgmental, but I was on the beach on a vacation that was paid for, or else I couldn't have afforded it. And I was trying to start a second law firm when my first law firm hadn't even really done anything. I didn't really have much of a law firm to speak of. And it dawned on me that, like, what are you doing? You're distracting yourself, pretending, that you're going to start the second law firm when the first one hasn't even been successful, if I'm being very honest with myself. So I see a lot of people get in. Like 10 years ago, there was only a few lawyer coaches, and now you go on LinkedIn and, like,
Yeah.
attorney and lawyer coach, helping lawyers, live the life of their dreams, find the free, like, over and over and over. So those are just everywhere. Staffing, hiring, I haven't seen as many, but that's
No, but
probably the next wave coming, and some of our success, I think, has spurred some people to, imitation is the greatest form of flattery, right? When you see someone else be successful, I used to do this also when my firm, wasn't going anywhere fast. I would see family law firms growing very quickly, and I would be like, if only I had a family law firm.
right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So we kind of tell ourselves these stories, but sometimes I think it's people that don't want to practice law, couldn't really get their firm off of ground, but don't want to sort of admit it to themselves. Or frankly, maybe they don't have the stick-to-itiveness or the maturity to really see one business to a point where they can open another. And then again, a few people do it the right way. So it's a nuanced answer.
Yeah. And I think it's like a lot of work. I think that the business that you're in, this business gets staffed up. I mean, I'm not in it, but I can just imagine. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of, like, manual labor is the way I look at it. Roll up those sleeves and get in there. So it's a ton of work. But then the other one too is, so we talked about the get staffed up kind of opportunity, and then the coaching. And then there's also, now attorneys are really getting into the call centers and the answering services, which I didn't think I would ever see.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of that going on too. So
I really go in on answering services in the book, and I'm unapologetic about it, because
yeah,
even if I have friends in that business, they're not doing it the right way. And it's too important that small law firms and early attorneys, especially, there's a phenomenon called the golden toilet. Like, you spend all this money on marketing or time, which is money, on networking, only for the phone to be answered the wrong way. Answering services, it's always someone different answering the phone. They don't know how to pronounce your name. They don't know where you are. Then their software doesn't work, and you miss. I mean, I see those posts all the time on Facebook, and it drives me crazy that people still use answering services, especially when you can get a full-time virtual receptionist for about the same cost, and actually oftentimes much less.
oh
Because
yeah,
all the return phone calls that they can do.
yeah. I think the best way to go is to have your own team, and they can be the virtual team, and they're just your virtual call center, client service center, whatever. I mean, they're yours, and that's it. I mean, you don't need to outsource it because you have your
Yeah.
own.
Yeah.
But
You know, like my law firm, we use one of the companies for backup for like nights, weekends, for times when our phone's not answered, right? Just to make sure we never have that somebody gets the dreaded answering machine, right? But otherwise, yeah, we've got 2 people at the office that are answering phones all the time. Now,
Yeah.
but they're virtual, and when your phone's answered in another country through a VoIP system, it sounds the same, it rings the same, the person on the other line has no idea, and then when they say, you know, let me talk to Chris, please, no problem, hold #123, the phone's going to transfer just as fast because it's over, you know, the internet. So yeah, it's very effective to do it that way.
Okay, so let me ask you this question. Okay, so somebody is calling the firm, and we'll just call them the virtual team member. They have an accent, and, you know, maybe a strong one. And then Mrs. Smith says, "Where are you located? What's the answer? Like, what kind
Sure.
of answer should you give?"
It depends on what the law firm owner wants to do. So 90% of staffing companies are out of the Philippines. We are not. And part of the reason we are not is because ours are very client facing, and we want the English accent to be as neutral as possible. And when you're in Latin America, like we are, the English is really, really phenomenal. There are certified English tests and different levels, and our people all have to pass at the highest levels before they're ever offered a job for us. And then we start placing them for clients. So the English is usually like, I used to get that question a lot more 5 years ago. I don't get it very often. Sometimes though, you'll have someone say, oh, well, I want somebody with like an English accent to answer my phone. It's like, okay, well, you know, we recruited out of South Africa for 3 years for that reason, until some unfortunate local things happened that prevented us a lot of infrastructure problems, I guess. But we don't see that happening. But I don't think, look, I would just like, ours is trained to say, well, I'm a full-time team member located in Mexico.
Yeah.
You know, but if a law firm owner didn't feel a duty to disclose that, then they would just say, I'm here locally. Technically they're lying, you know, but it's not a legal. I could see why somebody would do it, in other words, and I wouldn't think less of them for that.
Yeah, I'll just throw in, if you all want to ask me the question, I would say tell the truth. Just tell the truth. I mean,
Yeah,
you have a lot less headaches when you do that.
for
You tell
sure.
the truth. And the thing is, like, the person that you're asking to lie, your team member, that's, you know, that's a big deal, them doing that, and then they feel uncomfortable, and maybe you know, they question your integrity. So just tell the truth.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I think if that person ever found out, then your integrity with them is already gone. So I don't see the reason. And again, we just haven't had that come up. Like it really hasn't come up in quite a few years. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you another question, and then if there's anything that you want to make sure that we touch.
Sure.
You know, a little while ago, you talked about how you had a law firm and it wasn't doing what you wanted, but you were ready to go open up another one. What is that thing? What is that we have? A lot of us have that. What is it? We already know that this one, I couldn't even afford vacation. Oh, but let me go open another one. What is that?
I think most of us are looking for the magic bullet, right? We're looking for or maybe the lightning in a bottle. Like, well, if that person's successful, you know, one of my friends who is a business owner, he told me one time that he said, you make things look easy. I don't feel that way about myself by any means. It was an interesting observation, but I think that maybe I saw other things and thought they looked easy, like with the family law firms. And I think people think, well, I don't want to spend 5 years doing something that's not going to, you know, produce, when I could do what that person's doing and be just successful with them because I'm just as good as them. So I think that that's really the tendency. You know, my first 2.5 years, I struggled a lot with my law firm. You know, very happy to talk about that thing and be candid. And I had to read the right books and learn about myself, and then just realize I was terrified of failure because my ego didn't want other people to think that I failed.
Yeah.
So if you start a law firm, people congratulate you, but that's not the successful part. You know, you just open a laptop and say, I have my own law firm. If you're a
Right,
lawyer,
yeah.
for example, it's really putting yourself out there to start to grow and to hire, because you're putting yourself on the line in terms of, you know, oh, this person's taking a shot. He's going to start hiring and growing, and look at him, look at her. And then if you then have to fire those people or step back, it can be embarrassing if you sit around and think that everyone else thinks about you all day. And really, that's what we overestimate, is how much other people think about us. So when I finally was, you know, joined the right programs, got the right mentors, was convinced to start hiring, then everything changed for me. I doubled my law firm in the first month. And then I was like, you know what, maybe this does work, and I'll give myself credit at that point. So I just kept on hiring and building an A team. And then I spent my time getting rid of everything I could off my plate,
Yeah.
hiring, you know, my first attorney, for example. Didn't know if I had enough work to give him, but I had so much, I had to hire a second attorney in 3 months. And I spent my time networking, right? Making sure we're bringing the business, making sure the bills were paid, and then building a system for recruiting A players.
Mhm.
And before Get Staffed Up, I was going to start a business called the Hiring Pros, because of my success compared to a lot of colleagues. I was in a program one time and everybody was, I can't find good people and they're terrible, and millennials, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, these people have no clue. I wouldn't want to work for them either. And I think most employers feel entitled to have really great people show up at our door and work for us their whole lives. And like, that's not why they're on this earth. So we got to earn them. We got to work hard. We got to provide the right environment, and we have to, you know, hire slow, fire fast, and then do it again, and not say, well, I tried and I failed and now I won't do it anymore. Like, we got to keep getting back on that bike.
You got to keep going. Okay, so I'm gonna throw you a little curveball here. Okay,
Got
so you have your book right now in front of you. Pick a place in the book where you feel like you want everybody, when they get the book, go to this page. So pick a place in the book, in the page, and just read a little bit of it and entice everybody to get the book and go to that page.
Okay. Yeah. This is Tell All. Remember, I said, ask me all the hard-hitting questions. So let's do, you know what, Chris, I'm going to do this. I'm going to turn to Fixing the Leaky Bucket. Okay, that's the name of chapter 6, and this is right up your alley, because
what page is it on?
This is page 73.
Okay, 73.
73, right? And this is an argument I have with a lot of people. So I say, and again, this is up your alley, because this means hire someone like Chris to coach your intake people. But here's how I start the chapter. You've got your marketing assistant cranking and more leads are coming in. Now you need to develop a system for converting clients from the initial point of contact to the paid consultation. Your next hire is an intake specialist. Your intake specialist is not your receptionist. Many attorneys don't understand this difference or why both are necessary. Please listen to me. Both are necessary. That's the first 2 paragraphs of chapter 6 on page 73. And then I get into, you know, where I talked about my hiring, but where we started getting a lot of clients was when I stopped doing the intake. And I still remember training my first intake person and listening to his first call where he booked a consultation and I wasn't a part of it. And it was like a national holiday for me. I mean, it was amazing, right? And that system will differentiate your firm from other firms almost overnight, because so many people just have such a bad experience when they do call a law firm.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So what was that page again?
73.
Page 73. And say the title of that chapter.
Fixing the Leaky Bucket.
Okay. And then where can everybody get your book?
So what we did for your listeners, Chris, is we created a landing page. It's at getstaffedup.com/tell-all. And we've got a nice little promotional offer for anyone that finds a landing page, as well as the link there to buy the book 24 Months to Freedom.
Awesome. Excellent. All right. Any last words?
No, I want to thank you for having me on. It's super fun, and thank you for what you're doing for the legal community. Super important. And we're trying to work with more people like you. Again, we supply great people, but you know, if you want to go to the next level, I believe in coaches big time, and you got to have specialty people, bring them in, let them help you work on your firm. And that's how things are going to get better.
Awesome. All right. All right, everyone. It's Chris Mullins with Lawyers Tell All, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for tuning in to Lawyers Tell All, where Chris Mullins takes you on a journey with lawyers in the trenches who show you the realities of what it takes to succeed in this chaotic, crowded, ever-changing profession. Remember to visit our website at www.lawyerstellall.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on Lawyers Tell All.